Well, welcome back, everyone. I have a very special guest today, Ash Gross, and we have made a pretty cool connection here. Uh, and we can talk about that later because I think it was very interesting. And like you said, sometimes the stars align and the right guests come on at the right time and we kind of meet up. So, Ashley, thank you for dialing in, and I'm very excited to talk today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so stoked to be here.
Well, thank you, Ashley. So, can you give us a little background about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Sure. So I am many things. I wear many hats. I am first and foremost a mom, a wife. I'm a founder and CEO. I'm a mentor things. I think really what catapulted my career was in 2020. I started playing around with generative AI before it was cool.
Hmm.
And I really just started like creating use cases. And I didn't love the technology. I actually had no technical background before 2020. I just wanted to spend more time with my son. So I was like, there's got to be a way to use technology the way it's designed, which is to make our lives easier. So I started using AI to condense my 40-hour work week into a 15-hour work week. And then once I did that, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do this for everything just to figure out like where else I can be more scrappy and productive. And so that just kind of opened the doors for me. It led me to an enterprise company where I rolled out multiple LLMs. There's so many cool opportunities that kind of happened when I just decided to raise my hand and be like, yeah, like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure this out. And so once I got, kind of a taste of what AI ROI even looked like, I was like, okay, the people that need this the most business owners and the entrepreneurs. So I went and built my own business and I keep the AI education accessible and affordable. And my whole entire, purpose behind this whole entire career is to democratize AI access and close the AI literacy gap. Otherwise, the corporations are going to continue to have all the power and us average everyday folks are not going to have any of it. And I don't want that to happen. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me.
Well, yeah, that's fantastic, and I know what you mean. The coming up to a point where you're just like, hey, I'm just gonna do this. And I'm gonna try this, and let's make it work. And I think that's as we go through, maybe in my younger days, I was more scared of had a fear of failure and what happens if this doesn't work out. But what obviously you've shown, and what others can probably see is, sometimes it just takes that first step and you can achieve so much. I mean, you have a world of information out there with, all the technology we have, and now with AI. Because I'm fascinated, you turned your 40-hour work week into a 15-hour work week. Was that
Yeah.
through just basic administrative tasks, or what did you find AI work for you initially?
It was honestly just, I was like, I hate doing all of these things, right? Like, I hate answering emails. I get anxiety. Like, in my head, I was like, I would love to just wake up one morning and not look at my phone and have to start reading all the emails because by the time my workday actually starts, then I've read through all the emails where I can actually start to be productive. So
Yeah.
that was one of the tasks immediately. I was like, I got to figure out a way to automate this with AI. So I did. I ended up using Jasper
Hmm.
to create like reprioritize my email inbox based on the priorities and then go ahead and write that first line of the email. So then I didn't have to manually go in, read all the emails, figure out what
Hmm.
the 9/11 emergencies were,
Yeah.
prior get through those. So that was one thing. There were so many others though. So for example, Calendly. Calendly is wonderful, but the way my heart just like plummets when I'm at a grocery store and someone books a time with me and it's
Yeah.
like 30 minutes from, where I'm at and it's going to take me 40 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
It was driving me insane, but you have to be accessible in this day and age because everybody's used to this instant gratification, right? You go on
Hmm.
Instagram, you can shop from your phone. You don't even need to go to another interface. TikTok, this short, bite-sized education. So I needed to make myself accessible without sacrificing my mental health and well-being. And so implementing AI to automatically go ahead and add a buffer 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after anyone books so
Hmm.
that it doesn't matter where I'm at. If this is where I'm available and I say I'm available from 8 to 4 and I decide to go get groceries, I don't have to worry about that happening. So just little things like that. I really had this approach of I hate doing all these tasks. I want to figure out a way to do them back. And that was really the perspective I had.
Yeah. Well, I do want to get into your building a business with AI in 10 days, and also the prompt community, which I think both of those are fantastic. And obviously I've subscribed to the prompt community on your YouTube channel, and then I'm interested in learning more about that. and then also the how your approach to your building a business AI in 10 days. But can you talk to me about, okay, AI for maybe yourself, a certain generation, demographics, they're excited and interested in it. But what about the older generation who doesn't, maybe is not as computer savvy? What is your communication or your storytelling to help maybe a business owner or leader who is maybe technology shy embrace what AI can do for them?
The first piece of advice I give them is to stay away from the news because it's always sensationalized. There's a lot of messaging where it says, you're going to get left behind. And like, I don't think that fear mongering has really ever worked. So I always tell them that first, right off the bat. I also tell them that depending on where the money is and where the funding is, that's where the attention is. It doesn't mean that there's not other more important or interesting things going on. It just means that that is what the media is focused on because that is where the money is being poured into right now. Very similar to the cryptocurrency movement where we saw
Mhm.
that boom. And I remember during 2021, it didn't really matter what business you had. If it was tied to crypto, you were going to get invested in.
Yeah.
So I always like to just kind of provide them a little bit of historical context and kind of safeguard their mental capacity. And then I just say, listen, you can approach AI with the perception that I had, which was technology gung ho about it. It's not that I love it so much. It's just I want to use it to automate the parts of my job that I don't like doing so that I enjoy my job more because then I'm not going to burn out. I'm sustainably going to be able to stay at one job longer. I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. And when I enjoy what I'm doing, I don't care what anyone says, your personal and professional lives are interconnected. So if you are loving your professional life and you're thriving and there's balance, there's probably balance and some kind of structure, in your personal life and vice versa. So that's the advice that I would start them off with. I also like to say intrinsically motivating yourself. I'm a very big motivational person, right? Like
Hmm.
I listen to the same Kobe Bryant playlist
Yeah.
before I public speak every single time.
Yeah.
So I always like to say start with a use case that's fun.
Hmm.
And when I say that, I really mean even if you prompt ChatGPT to say, "Hey, here's the ingredients I have in my fridge. What recipe can I make with right it'll seconds to get a result?" And then you're going to be like, "Oh wow, that was so fast. Like I wonder what else it can do." You're intrinsically motivating yourself. So then maybe the next time you play around with ChatGPT, you're like, "Okay, can you teach me how to say this one sentence in Spanish?" Again, it takes 60 seconds, 90 seconds for it to give you an output. And so you're just building up your bandwidth and the amount of time you're willing to spend with this tool. And you're becoming better and better at it in small increments. So that's the advice I would give people. Start small.
Yeah. I found that, just playing around with it early on, I think if you have a blank canvas, you don't know where to start, right? And as you start to learn how prompts can be your friend and how to appropriately use prompts, I think that is, very beneficial because you go on there like, draw me a dog, right? Like you don't even know what to say, but as you learn how to use prompts in your favor, um, or if you learn how to write the correct type of prompts to get the results you want, then I think it starts opening eyes.
Yes.
How do you see people growing with that? As far as, are they using the right, those who maybe are hesitant, are they using the wrong prompts? Are they using the wrong context? Like, what is it about, AI do you think gives you some additional pushback as far as its use?
Yes, I have a spicy take for this one. I really think that across the board, right, regardless of age, I think that the folks that are having the hardest time with AI are finding it difficult because they're not great communicators. And what I mean by that is, let's just take something as simple as chain prompting,
Hmm.
where you put one prompt in, you wait for it to, validate what you want, and then you go again and you go again. That would be the equivalent if I came, forget to fill up the gas tank. And by the way, I need that credit card for the purchase tomorrow. And don't forget, we have a play date with so and so. And you'd be like, what did you, okay, like chill. But if I was like, hey, Joe, don't forget to fill up the car, it needs gas. And you were like, okay, cool. And I was like, And don't forget the credit, like I'm communicating in a way that I'm making sure you understand what I'm trying to convey, and I'm breaking it down. So I think that the people that are having the hardest time with this are not putting as much of an emphasis on communication. And really, it's super simple. If you want to get past that barrier, just go ask your spouse or your family member what you can do better to communicate, right? Just be like,
Yeah.
hey, when you're talking to me, am I talking fast? Am I talking slow? Like, can you give me some pointers? And then
Yeah.
go take that to an LLM and retry your prompts.
Yeah. They'll be sure to tell you. Trust me.
They
They'll
will not
tell
hold
you where
back.
you're doing wrong. Yeah.
Especially if you have kids, they don't even know how to lie at this point. Go
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. My youngest, she doesn't have a filter, and we started her off in gym or soccer. My other two have a filter and no problems. They're older. But my youngest doesn't have a filter. And when she introduced me to her coach, or introduced me to her coach, she said, "This is my dad. He's old. He's 40." And so now I gotta like make sure that whatever she says, I gotta make sure we filter it a little bit and teach her proper introductions. So I don't want to
I
be known
love
as the
that.
old man everywhere I go with her. So yes, communication skills and having people who can tell you where you are lacking in those is ideal. Um,
Yeah.
so talk to me about your building a business with AI in 10 days.
So I built my business in 10 days. Now, granted, this is my third business, but it is completely different than any other business. Solely community. I've been a marketer for 10 years and I've had two previous businesses. And so for me, when I was approaching this business, I was like, okay, what are the things, again, what do I hate, right? Like I've done this. So what do I hate doing when it comes to setting up a business? Where do I usually get friction points? And for me, I'll go ahead and tell on myself. It's all the legal mumbo jumbo that I have to fill
Right.
out. So like, it's not just like getting an LLC. It's like trademarking. They don't even use like fifth grade grammar in trademarking when you're doing it. It's
Yeah.
like, you have to have an encyclopedia to look at all the words as you're doing it. So I just started making a checklist of all the things I knew I hated doing that I was going to need help with. And obviously, in order to, go get an advisor or go hire a lawyer, like it was going to be astronomical. And I'm bootstrapping this because I have control issues and I wanted ultimate creativity. So for me, I looked at, okay, what am I good at? Where are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And what am I dreading doing? So how I automate the things that I am dreading doing so that I'm still looking at it. I'm still being the one that finally reviews everything, but I don't have to do everything as manual as I have done before. And so I think really the change in perception for me was I'm not going to just buy technology to buy technology. I'm not going to go buy the HubSpots and the Salesforces when I'm bootstrapping this business because I don't even know if I need them. I wanted to get really, really scrappy with the technology I was using.
Mhm.
So I really looked at my problems and my weaknesses, and then I went and found the technology for those problems and weaknesses. And long story short, I was able to get this up and running in 10 days, all the legal paperwork ready to go. And then within the first 30 days, we hit 10,000 monthly recurring revenue. By day 60, I had already been in MSNBC, like a couple other magazines. We already had partnerships. Like I just saw the growth really kick off. And I was like, okay, something blueprint somewhere in these legal yellow pads that I need to dig out. And so I created the How to Build a Business Using AI in 10 Days because I think that a lot of people think that they have to get technology for the sake of technology.
Mhm.
And technology sucks unless you're
Yeah.
solving a problem with it and you know how to use
Yeah.
the tools and they're working. So I just essentially took my workflows, I took my prompts, and I took the technology that I'm using and I put it into a course. And it's a 10-day course on how to build a business in 10 days. And it's meaty, but it's effective. And at the end of this course, the really cool thing that I'm proud of is every single module that happens every day, there's an activity at the end of it to make sure that whatever I was doing, whether it was like market research and GTM planning, idea generation and validation, there's an activity at the end of it so that the students can take it. And at the end of it, they actually have a business plan and a financial plan. So if they want to go pitch their idea to angel investors or VCs, they have everything because that's such a huge hurdle. Actually, you need so many details. And by the time you launch your business, you no longer have the luxury of time. You're strapped. So my whole motto was we're going to do the work up front. you don't even know the outcome you're going to get, but at the end of this, here's everything that you did, and it's empowering them, and it's like, look at everything you did. Now you're ready. Like, go fly. So that's my business. That's my
Yeah.
course.
No, it's fantastic. And I think that when people, understand that, I think there's a fear, right? Of, okay, I do want to start my business. I don't know where to start. Um, by the time from the concept idea to when I launch, how long is that? How much money am I investing in this? And I don't even know if I'm going to make it. But with this, in 10 days, you have something that's, presentation ready. And,
Yes.
so, and it's proven, right? Like you've
Yes.
done it and you have
Yes.
the results to show for it. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Now, did that lead you into the prompt community, or which one came first?
The prompt community came first. So I was a small business mentor through score.org, which
Hmm.
is a nonprofit run through the SBA. So I was just seeing the same challenges of first time business owners. And then if you actually look at that horribly ugly chart where it's like, the length of time that your business is going to succeed and like the drop off in the years, it's very consistent with the same problems. And I was like, this is silly. Like, we're
Hmm.
in 2024 with all this technology. We should not be failing because of poor marketing and a poor business plan with all this tech. The prompt community was really my baby because after I rolled out multiple LLMs in my marketing organization, we created 25 use cases, which, really means nothing. But if you look at the revenue, after 3 months of implementing these LLMs, we over exceeded our pipeline of 90 million. About impact, like that's insane. And so for me, I was like, okay, holy crap. First of all, wow.
Yeah.
Second, this would be life changing to small business owners and entrepreneurs. And a lot of the education online is from elite universities and they cost an arm and a leg. And it just didn't make sense to me. And also, I took like 35 certification courses, and most of them were just teaching me, what an LLM is and how to code. And at the end of the day, unless you know how to communicate the technology and what you're doing with it, you're not really setting yourself up for success. Like, you're kind of just using your time to learn a tool and like dedicating your time to that tool. And it seems silly to me because it can go away at any time. So I created the prompt community because I just wanted to disrupt the whole education system around AI. And so I created a community. It's hosted on Circle. It's only $20 a month. And
Yeah.
every single week, there's 3 tutorials. There's one live. Not only that, but I bring in an AI founder every single week. So you can hear from the AI founders. You can grill them about data ethics, privacy, security, because you should be holding them accountable. It's your data. And they give you free access to their tool to test for a week. So you're not even having to trust me, right? Because I'm not an expert at the end of the day. I'm just someone that's curious and leaning into
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I'm bringing these founders in, hold them accountable, ask them their questions. And then if you like the answers, then use the tool. But the whole idea of the prompt community is I'm not going to tell you what's right and wrong. I'm going to give you all of the information and empower you to make that decision.
And see, what I like about this too is it's not an outrageous cost, right?
No.
It's very affordable, and they're getting a product where on both the customer and the developer, right? The customer, they get this tool to use to play with, and if they like it, then the developer themselves, well, one, they get the feedback on what to fix,
Exactly.
and then they have a customer too at the end of the day who wants their product, right? I mean,
Yes.
you don't have to. There's not really a need to go out there and make sales because you're getting a free trial run at this. So the partnership with you, I mean, it's mutually beneficial, and then they have a
Right.
connection for life, really, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's 167 AI tools that I've tested, and they're popping up still every single day. So it's wild. There's no way to stay in front of this movement at this point. You're just kind of like, okay, I need to learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. And this is the best way to do it. Hold yourself accountable by understanding what you're doing with your data, and then hold them accountable because they're the ones creating this. We can't just wait for, our local and, national government to come and form, opinions and laws because we don't know when that's going to happen. We really need to take back the power and empower ourselves to figure it out because this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a great point, right? AI is developing probably exponentially, or it's just every day it's something new and or 10 times new. And so I guess how do you maintain how do you maintain up to date on the latest and greatest if it's constantly changing? And you're right, like everything I see now has a little symbol that annotates that it has an AI function. And so how do you stay up to date?
The short answer is I don't. I mean, I have my, few newsletters and podcasts that I like to listen to, but I really just shifted my focus instead of trying to stay up to date with every tool's updates, right? I just focus on what are the tools that are actually providing value because that's
Mm,
where I want to put my time. I think that regardless of if it has an AI sticker or not, we are all prone to spending our time trying to like figure a tool out and it just wastes so much of our time. And then we're like, well, crap, I just wasted 6 hours trying to figure this tool out. I still don't really know what it does or if I don't hours back, right? So I like
mhm,
to look at the value and not just, oh, it's another AI tool. And I don't like to marry myself to one specific tool. Now I have been using ChatGPT and Jasper, and I have a couple that I use every single day. But
mhm,
a great example of this is Gemini. Gemini was amazing a year ago. Now I don't even use it. And it's kind of like that with all these LLMs, right? Like Claude wasn't that amazing. It came out with its newest update. Now it's great. So there's just no way. And the thing is, you have to understand the amount of pressure that these companies are under because they're competing with each other. So they're not going to stop anytime soon. So I like to zoom out. And instead of trying to stay up to date with all of the updates of these tools, I like to think, okay, pretty much all of these vendors are on the road to artificial general intelligence, which
mhm.
means we really need to figure out how to make these LLMs work for us now and figure out a way to mitigate hallucinations, mitigate bias, really hone in on security and protection. If we to aid, God help us all. So I like to focus on what I can control and what is providing value right now for me and educating people on those aspects.
Yeah, so kind of like crypto, right? Like,
Yes.
um, I I'm into Bitcoin, but I'm not up to date on the latest meme coin that pops up out of nowhere. And
Right.
so
They're
yes,
always going to be there.
yeah, exactly. Um, so you brought up a good point. Um, these tools as they develop, um, do you see like so as more people get access to build their own functions, whether it's their own apps or however they take this technology, do you see it like needing to be kind of reined in or some kind of control over? I don't say control, but maybe some regulations to keep it from, I don't know, going in the wrong direction?
Yes. We've social media, right? Like we hear extreme points of view all the time with social media
Hmm.
because we just let this beast go until there was so much chaos and anarchy that
Yeah.
we tried to rein it in later. And it didn't work then, and it's not going to work with AI. So I think that's why I always say, as a user, you need to hold yourself accountable because it's not like you're, testing out HubSpot. And if you screw up, like, whoops, you might be on the block list and your email might be, getting flagged as potentially dangerous. Like, this is your data.
Yeah.
This is everything about you, about your family, where you live. Um, there's a lot to lose, and we've seen the horror stories, so we don't need to rehash them. But I think that people need to understand what's at stake for them and really make that decision. And I think that there's a healthy balance of optimism but cautiousness. So I don't think that fear is necessarily the answer. Most of the time, I tell people to identify what the fear is. Are you afraid that it's going to replace you? Are you afraid that you're irrelevant? Are you afraid that you don't know? And that's just, freaking just. But I also feel like there's this part of holding the vendors accountable because, in my opinion, until you slap money on holding people accountable, it's just not going to work. It's a slap on the wrist. You need to hit them where it hurts and you need to
Hmm.
take the money. So I think, yeah, there absolutely needs to be vendor accountability. There's no reason why we should have this much bias in LLMs. We've been preaching for years about diversity and including different representations in the room. And I feel like there's lots more conversations happening now about it because we're not just talking about like hiring diversity because it's a DEI initiative of the month.
Hmm.
It's like, no, these people are building the technology. So if you have a bunch of white dudes building technology, like then the technology is not really going to be, for anyone else. And
Right.
that's just the way it is. So yeah, I think there's a 50-50 accountability that needs to be happening.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, if we want everything to be the same, like, you know, I've so one thing I really enjoyed about the military was like a melting pot of people. You get people from all shapes and sizes, all walks of life, all over the country, and even some who are in the military to get citizenship. Different schools, different, it just, you had so many different people from so many different places, and you kind of come together and work together, and then the differences of our life, our experiences, and our careers come together, and it really helps to get out of that like one way line of thinking, where I don't think that was always the case.
Right.
I think there was probably a time where everyone looked like me, who made decisions, thought like we all looked at but now you bring in people from different cultures and different walks of life. There's empathy on, hey, have we thought about the impact of this on a population, for example? Have we thought about this from their point of view? Like one of the things, I talk about when my time in Iraq, if obviously 9/11 was horrible, but when we deployed over there, it was a shock to me based my experiences here, and then when I went over there, and obviously there are bad guys there, right? But the people who were mostly affected were just everyday women, children, and men who were just trying to live their lives, and their entire world got destroyed, right?
Yes.
And so it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I think having those experiences and the different, diversity initiatives that kind of bring that together, I think it really plays a part in everything you just said. I can't agree more. But do you see? So here, let me ask you this though. As we talk a little bit about, I brought the military and the government in a way. How do you see the government? How do you see the government applying or introducing AI into how they do businesses, especially with like efficiencies? As we know, we're quite a bit in debt. Is there a way that some of these efficiencies can help with that, or do you see the government adopting that, or by being adopted by the government, would it be so restricted with classifications and everything else that it wouldn't be able to be used to its fullest extent?
So I think you hit the nail right on the head. Okay. I think that we are, just to kind of go back to your point about being in the military, and for anyone listening that's military, like compared to sports, it's really different when you bring a group of people and you're together and you're like, okay, here's the initiative, right? Like this is the focus. And then it doesn't matter how much money all of you have, where you're from, what baggage you're bringing, right? What you've been through prior. You all come together with a shared goal and shared mission. And I say, that with sports too, because I feel like that breeds really good characteristics that are very similar. I think the issue with the government is very multifaceted, to say the least. I would say that in order for that to take effect, right, for everyone to get together for a common goal, they would have to all agree and communicate that. And I think that is a reach. I also think that the empathy and emotional intelligence is something that, I'm not going to say it's rare, but I very rarely see people kind of thinking, okay, here on each other, what's something that we can meet on the middle, and let's just see what happens then and experiment, right? Like let's meet in the middle, let's A/B test something, let's see how it goes, and let's build on that. And I think that the issue with total control versus no control with the government is, there's, first of all, you have to humble yourself, because not one person knows everything. There's so many people that know different things about AI, and individually, right? Like it's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with and learn and teach at the same time. And so you need to get a diverse group of people together that don't already have preconceived notions, because when you're afraid of something and you're not willing to lean into that fear and explore it and find factual information to validate your feelings and kind of bring you back down out of that fear state, there's really nothing productive happening. You have to actually be in that experience and be trying to figure out what you're going to do. There's already so many, great initiatives they've started. One of them is started ship program. I don't, necessarily love it. The Department of Labor rolled it out. I think it's a great start, but also, who has time to do apprenticeships other than, high schoolers and maybe recent college grads? So I think that we are getting there, but there's already technology out there that exists, for example, that, you have an app on your kids' phones. And if they're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram, you as a parent get to decide, hey, like if there's any body parts, if there's any cuss words, if there's any audio with, these words or this language, I want to be flagged. And then you get a notification anytime they end up seeing something on their phone, right? And then
Mhm.
you can actually go and make a change immediately and see that pay off. There's technology like this everywhere. I just think it's a lack of the general public having access to it. I think it's an AI literacy problem. I really do.
Okay. And so when it comes to here's a question. It's a selfish question.
Yeah.
Because my wife is a martial nurse practitioner and she works a lot.
So is my
So
mom.
yeah, so
Yes.
So do you see, and maybe again this might come back to like HIPAA or anything else, do you see AI being used in the healthcare sector to maybe free up doctors and nurses from a lot of the administrative duties to give them either more patient time or more appointments?
Yes.
That
Yes.
so how do you see that playing out?
Yes. So I am really, really excited about the intersection of healthcare and AI. It is primarily being led by women. And I think that that's for a reason, right? Like
Mhm.
we are usually in this space, we have a lot of empathy and we're naturally caring and nurturing. So I have seen everything from AI automated note takers so that your wife was talking to, because usually they have a roster of people and I forget how many, but it depends on, what their contract is, if they're full-time, which
Mhm.
hospital. But let's just say she has 25, you know, folks that she has to see that day. There's no way that she can give 30 minutes of her time to all 25 people. She'll never make it through that list. And that
Mhm.
sucks because people in those vulnerable positions need love and care the most. So there's AI tools where she can upload like a quick description, let's just say, Molly's showing signs of XYZ, she's feeling better, update her chart. And then it'll go update her chart. So instead of her sitting there having to type as Molly is, trying to get a little bit of one-on-one and have a conversation, maybe she's the only nurse she'll see that day. Your wife can send off those notes to the AI task note taker. It'll upload it immediately. She can sit with Molly. The other thing that I've seen that's really cool is you can take your phone, whatever phone you have. I have an iPhone and I use my voice memo app and I'll record a call. So if I'm having like a business meeting, my husband and I do business meetings every other week, or that call so that I can be fully present and have a conversation. After that call, I upload that to a note transcriber. So it translates the audio into text. And then I upload that text and have it create a to-do list for me of priorities. I didn't actually have to do anything except click record, copy, paste, and then prompt it to create me a to-do list of priorities, which took, 5 seconds. And I was able to be fully present with my husband. So those are just some of the things I've seen. I've also seen some groundbreaking research into MRIs, and there's so much research being done right now on certain types of LLMs being able to look at a CAT scan, for example, and be able to detect anything and then send those notes to a doctor. Because also from a patient's perspective, think about how many times they get misdiagnosed
Mhm.
or the technology doesn't catch it. And so it's empowering the doctors to do their own accountability and checks and balances and say like, oh, this is what it found. I need to go look into that instead of taking a quick look at a CAT scan, anything and good.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think money drives a lot of these decisions, right? And so
Yes.
I imagine maybe the initial cost, which I don't know how much it would be, but the initial cost might create people to hesitate a little bit into adopting something like that into a new system. But I would imagine the long-term revenue that you'd gain from that, not just from not only just efficiencies, right? But you're seeing more patients, so the
Yes.
insurance is payments. You're running more tests. So, are you seeing that companies are taking a more of a long-term view, or are they still, the market isn't actually great? Are they still hesitant to invest in something that may hurt their short-term profits, even though long-term gains could be, exponential?
I see a mix. So I think that the innovator I've seen, at least in my limited researching time, has been a lot of the private companies. So Pronuvo is a great example. They have a lot of AI automation. So instead of filling out a questionnaire before you go get a preventative MRI, they'll do, half body, full body, spine, everything. You get a questionnaire and it actually just calls you. So it's a phone call and you just conversate with it. So instead of spending 30 minutes filling something out, or worse, like handwriting, right? I mean, I feel like I'm dating myself by saying that you used to go to the doctor and write handwritten notes, but that was a thing at one point in time.
I'm older, so it's okay.
um, I feel like, even looking at what Pronuvo is doing and the amazing results that have come out of that, where I don't quote me on this, but I believe it's up to 40% of participants that go get a preventative MRI end up finding something early on. And so, those scans are $2,500. So it's a lot of, but if you healthcare system and how much it would cost, God forbid, if you did have cancer or another, preventable disease of some sort, probably caused by sugar, and you didn't have that option, like it's going to be way more expensive later than if you just go and take the proactive, preventions. But I think that it kind of depends on the healthcare system, who they're contracted with for insurance, because that's, another little fun
another
layer.
story.
It just depends, unfortunately. Yeah. But I have seen a lot of disruption in the AI healthcare space. A lot of like women nonprofits started that are giving grants away for this type of research, lots of apps. Mental health is huge and it's amazing and insane. And it's not miraculously, you're spending time on your phone or your computer because it's an LLM, but it's not adding to the loneliness epidemic because it's actually making you closer with your family. So I'm all for it. I think it's better than social media, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I think so. I think it's more, to me at least, I feel more valuable because I'm getting value out of the tool. I'm learning a new skill, or I'm learning where to find as a resource,
Yes.
where to learn something. And like you said, like going back to your how to build a business with AI in 10 days, a lot of those things that you might not know unless you come from a family who's already started a business and you have a mentor who can show you these are all the things you need to look at, from an LLC to your EIN for your taxes to all these different things, right? Unless you have experience with that or have family or mentor, you in the past you're probably buying a book and reading the book and then taking notes and then maybe calling a lawyer or an accountant or somebody to, okay, what do I do next? And you got to register with the city. And you also have to register with the county and the state and all these different things. But you can learn that kind of like that. One more thing here, and I think we might briefly touched about this earlier before we came on camera, when I was talking about selfishly about myself. We just mentioned businesses, hospitals adopting it, looking at short term versus long term. And we talked about how there are levels, whether it's levels of management, stakeholders, insurance company, whatever the case is. Do you see that small businesses are adopting this at a quicker rate due to a decision maker being very, very, very accessible to make a decision, versus I got to go through 10 levels of bureaucracy to get anything done?
I love this question. Thank you for asking this. Yes, hands down. And also like larger picture, right? Our economy sucks. We're in a weird point in time. And so I think just it's creating more of a power to the people instead of the corporations and the employers, if you will. And what I mean by that is there's not necessarily, a reason to have a full-time job if you can have a couple contract jobs that are more, and you can do way more, right? And you can do more of what you love. So, for example, a lot of the enterprises that I have seen, trying to implement AI, sometimes it comes top down, but when it's coming top down, it's oftentimes somebody from the top telling everyone what to do, but not how to do it or aligning with them or coming up with a game plan, right? And that's why I see this, I was a part of a task force, and I know a company task force, and I think it's great and it's definitely a move in the right direction. But also you're kind of inherently starting a problem where now all the power is with this group of people. And it's not really power because then they have to be responsible for making sure everybody else in the company is staying on track. And
Mhm.
all of them already have full-time jobs at that company, right? This is most of the time something they're taking on voluntarily. So it already creates the silo of communication. So yes, small business owners and entrepreneurs are a lot faster to adopt LLMs because I think primarily because they're actually looking at this technology as like, okay, here's the problem I have. I have to solve the technology. And when you're a founder, small business owner, whatever it may be, freelancer, you don't have time. So you're not looking at these tools on the company's dime and just,
Mhm.
playing around with them during work meetings. You're actually like, okay, I'm going to time myself for 10 minutes. I'm going to go into this one LLM. I'm going to make sure that I get a response. If I don't, I'm not paid version. I'm using the free trial and I'm leaving. So I think
Yeah.
it's just this awareness, this level of awareness for your time.
Yeah. I think a cool part that you brought up that I've kind of tried to. So, I mean, I've already told you I'm in the military, so I kind of had that background, but that's not necessarily I loved it. I do like after I've retired, it's the multiple. I can basically work multiple different projects, having multiple sources of revenue coming in the same amount of time as I would work a regular full time job.
Mhm.
And you have the power of being essentially your own boss or you're a decider of your own fate. If you don't put in the work, then hey, it's not going to work out well for you. But you put in the effort, and you can see a lot more results. And basically, you could, make in some cases more money, have a bigger impact, and have more time with family than you have in your regular full time job, which is a single source of income that takes up all of your time, day and night. I found that, are you seeing that with a lot of people who are like working with you and getting these entrepreneurs who are interested in something like this?
So let's keep going on that little train, right? Let's peel that onion layer back one more.
Yeah.
So, no, because I love this. This is part of the reason why I like talking about AI because there's no way you can avoid not talking about a vulnerable conversation because these
Hmm.
are people's lives that it's
Hmm.
affecting. So, I love these conversations. So, yes, I am seeing so many things. A great example of this is I feel like the people that are embracing AI, it's not even really like, the younger generations versus the older generations. There's really no certain demographic. It's really a mindset. So the people that I see actually being productive with AI are people that are leaning into their curiosity and they're not in their comfort zones. And I'm going to explain this even more. I think that until you have something traumatic happen to you, until you're laid off and you weren't expecting it, or the company shuts down, until you've been through a situation like that, it's so easy to stay safe and comfortable. You just collect your paycheck. The longer you're there, the longer you feel more secure. And I don't want to be, one of the people that are like, you're just a number, but at the end of the day, you are. And so for me, I found myself getting really cushy and comfortable because whenever I was pregnant back in 2020, I was working in a company and I had just assumed that they had an amazing maternity leave. And what I didn't realize was, there's local laws and there's government laws and there's like all these, like nothing straightforward. And so I thought I was safe. And then come to find out I didn't have a maternity leave. So
Mm.
to go back. And until I had experienced that, right? Because like that sucked. I wish I didn't have to experience that. But
Yeah.
until that happened to me, that didn't occur to me that I was just a number. I didn't feel like I was just a number. I had actually just gotten a 5% raise right before I went on maternity leave. And I remember the company was like, this is the biggest raise we've given this year. And I was like, woohoo.
Yeah.
And then after that happened, I didn't have a maternity leave. And I actually like crunched the numbers. I was like, this sucks. Like, this is it. This is the best. And so
Yeah.
I think that until you've been through a situation like that and you're adaptable, right? This is where the military comes in because you have to be adaptable to
Hmm.
different environments. If you get too caught up in staying cautious and staying safe, it's really hard to change that frame of mind. And so I think that that is additionally why we're starting to see more fractional C-suite roles and more contract roles and more consultant roles because they understand that they're valuable and their time is valuable compensate.
Yeah.
And this idea that you have to stay with a company for years and years, well, that was cool like 50 years ago when you were getting, stock options and
Mhm.
401ks were pretty much mandated, there was a
Yeah.
pension, but there's no pension. There's no lucrative, unless you're learning and earning and ideally both, there's no reason you should stay at companies that long. So I've seen people that have gone through the dot-com era and they are hell-bent on not getting caught up in this again and not being afraid. And they're
Yeah.
some of the first people to adapt to AI. And then I've seen some people that are like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to make it work for me. And I think just having that mental idea and that mental motivation of like, I'm not going to let this scare me. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. That's what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree with you. I would say so. Obviously, I did quite a few deployments, and I missed a lot of my kids' lives, right? And then my youngest, she was born, and I've been with her ever since. And so I got to experience everything that a parent would experience. And I so I was reading one of um, Patrick Bet David's book. Uh, I think Choose Your Enemies Wisely or
Mhm.
whichever one was. And his comment was in a story that he gave about his youth. He's like, it was at that moment I decided I wasn't going to let anyone else determine my future. And that stuck with me. And so I thought about it, and I love my career. I enjoy my time in service. I don't regret any of that stuff. But I didn't want to have the looming, you're going to deploy, or we're going to move you unexpectedly, or we're going to do this. I wanted control of my life, and I wanted to have control of my own destiny. And so when you say something like that, uh, that is what has really attracted me to AI, to becoming an entrepreneur, to thinking through what different avenues can we approach, and kind of like, hey, take ownership and we go with it, because nothing's guaranteed. I mean, I'm sure you've seen as well, right? Hey, we're gonna, you give me $10,000 and I'll build you a Shopify web page and you'll make millions of dollars. And turns out a lot of people, I'm sure there's success stories, right? Who own it, run it, and are very successful with it. But it's nothing is going to come easy to you. And having that as being able to embrace the risk of failure and to adapt to it and keep on going, I think is valuable. And I see exactly what you're saying. The people who are mostly involved in this and developing from here, or those people, those risk takers, and people who are willing to take a chance. So I think
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Absolutely. It's also, I feel like the older we get, the more responsible our dreams are, right? Like I remember when I was in school, I was like, I want to be a vet and a ballerina and all these things. And, obviously I'm fine not being any of those, right? Like I couldn't imagine putting dogs down. That would destroy me. But I feel like we experience, heartbreak for the first time and job loss for the first time. And they, over time, it just kind of cracks away at us. And at a certain point in time, we kind of like wake up one day and we're like, oh, yeah, like we haven't switched jobs in 15 years. And,
Yeah,
like I have the same phone number I've had since I was in fifth grade, right? Like we just
yeah.
get comfortable and we don't realize it's fear. And that's okay. But just being aware that, you are afraid of things. I know for me as a mom, I constantly am worried about my son, and I sometimes translate professional life and I won't take as many risks because
Hmm.
I'm worried about the outcomes. So just acknowledging that, yes, like the world is not perfect and you're going to make mistakes, but if you embrace failure, you're going to learn so much faster because guess what? If you don't make mistakes, you probably haven't figured out your life lesson. And that's probably why you're still in your chapter.
Yeah.
So I always like to reframe it that way too, because if I have the same thing happen over and over again to me, right? Like for 3 years there from 2016 to like 2019, I had horrible, horrible bosses. And I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, I was like, I was in 2 jobs in those 3 years. And I was like, what is the lesson here? Like, what is
Yeah.
it? And then I realized, my whole lesson that I was supposed to get out of that was advocate for myself at the beginning. If you have a bad feeling and there's a voice in your head saying this is a red flag, it's a red flag. Don't try and
Hmm.
justify it because you need the money. It's just a red flag. Take it as it is and learn your lesson. And then once accepted that that was my lesson, I didn't have that happen to me again. So it's the same way with anything.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll find that the lessons you're learning here and you're teaching, you'll probably carry over to parenting as well, right? And
Yes.
it's something I've tried to embrace too, and nurture those dreams. And my youngest, she started her own little YouTube channel where she records herself playing like Roblox and stuff like that, and making music on GarageBand. And so she says she's gonna be the next Mr. Beast. And I said, let's do it. Let's. And so
That's
we embrace
amazing.
it. We put all the parental controls on it so that nothing
Yeah.
weird happens. But just trying to embrace that creativity and not try to stifle it. But that's all part of that mind shift. Because before I'd be like, no, you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a nurse, you want to be, but now it's like, hey, what do you love this? Let's pursue it. Let's see what happens. Let's keep on embracing it and developing it. So I think you'll see that as
That's amazing.
as time as a parent. Um,
Absolutely.
well, we've been talking for like 50 minutes, and I could probably talk a couple more hours. It's been a very enlightening and very exciting conversation, and this is an area that as I explained to you prior to, that I'm very interested in based off of my business partner and kind of things he's trying to implement with what we're doing. And so very exciting. And thank you so much for coming on. I think your program, I would definitely, I know I'm going to put all your everything in the description for people to look you up, to go to your program, to look at your course, look at the prompt community. Would you have any comments or any suggestions for anyone who's on the fence about reaching out to you and starting your program?
I think my biggest advice would be, building a business is not rocket science. If you have guiding you that has done it before and is tackling it from here's the problem and here's how we're going to solve it so that you don't run into the problem, you can do it. The only reason that you wouldn't be able to go create a business after taking the course is because you're afraid. That really is the only challenge that I can't fix for you. You have to do it yourself. But if you are willing to learn and you're motivated, I can do the rest. And so I think that's probably the only advice that I would have for them is anyone can do it. Doesn't matter where you live, how old you are, what your experience is. I always find that people that have switched careers a million times end up being some of the most brilliant minds because they're just like sponges everywhere they go and they're connecting dots with all of their experiences that they've had. So if you don't think you can, you're wrong. And that's the advice I would leave.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.